Turning our attention now to the controversy. This controversy that surrounds Bournvita, which refuses to die down. The apex child rights body now, the NCPCR, the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights, has sent a notice to the FMCG firm Mondelez India, directing the company to remove the allegedly misleading advertisements. The notice reads, I'm going to quote from the notice. It says, the Commission in this regard observes that the product manufactured by your company is misleading the customers through its product packaging and its advertisements. The Commission observes that your product's labeling, packaging, display and advertisement claims are misleading for the general public, unquote. This is what that notice is saying. Bournvita earlier stated that its formula is scientifically crafted by food scientists and all the necessary nutritional information is mentioned on the pack for consumers to make informed choices. So how is this row end finally likely? Can anyone prove that the product is indeed harmful to anyone's health? And can the NCPCR, the child rights body, force Bournvita to change its labeling and its advertisements? Also, most importantly, should consumers read the ingredients? Shouldn't they actually do that and do the calorie count while choosing a product, pore over those details or not? Isn't it buyers beware? All those questions are up for grabs, and our panel of experts joining us, Sunil Alagh, the independent business consultant, is with us on this edition of India Tonight, along with Jahangir Gai. He is a consumer activist. Great to have you, gentlemen. Sunil Alagh, first to you. You know, activism is good, questioning is good, but do you think there may be overreach over here where scientifically this may not have been put through the rigorous tests, the paces that it needs to go through to support the kind of claims of excessive sugar content in Bournvita, because that's at the heart of it, isn't it?
You know, as far as I'm concerned, you cannot blame Mondelez for putting in sugar into their Bournvita. That's not the question as far as I'm concerned. It's a question of saying that, look, if 20 grams, as they claim, or 25 grams per spoon of sugar goes in, and what is the amount that the kid must have in their diet throughout the day is very important. So therefore, 20 grams in itself or 25 grams in itself is not harmful. But if the kid continues to have chocolates during the day or sweets and everything else, then it becomes harmful. So it's because of that that you need to state very clearly. It's not just a question of Mondelez, but it's a question of all companies must state very clearly what they feel. Because if you look at Diet Coke, it says very clearly at the back of the can, and it's in red, in little things saying that, look, it's not meant for children below 12. That's mainly because in America, they've found that if you keep drinking Diet Coke from the age of 8 or 7, right up to the age of 60, you may get cancer. And therefore, they've said not before the age of 12, hoping that after the age of 12, you will not have a Diet Coke every single day of your life, which children have. So it's very, very important for not just Mondelez, but everybody must state that, look, if 20 grams of 7.5 grams carry 20 grams, then is that the right amount that goes into a spoonful of milk every day? And therefore, what is the total amount that is required by a child in his diet for the day? So it's not harmful by itself if you have only Bournvita and nothing else. But look, all companies must, not just Mondelez, but all companies must state very clearly how much of sugar they put in, because today excessive sugar does lead to diabetes and a number of other ailments, and therefore it's important to mention this. And you know, you can go into so many examples all over the world that where people are not stating, and therefore to calculate the amount that is required for a child in a diet for an average consumer is a little too much to expect of him. And what they are stating on their pack is not by itself harmful, but it could be harmful if it is had added chocolate, sweets, biscuit creams, cream biscuits, everything else, and ice cream that look throughout the day that a child has, then you've got to have a problem. You're going to have a problem there.
Bring in consumer activist Jahangir Gai on this. For you, sir, what is at the heart of this issue? If we imagine there are inherent problems with the product, shouldn't the checks and balances have happened at a much earlier regulatory stage, perhaps by the FSAI, the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India. Where do you think the problem lies in this particular matter?
The problem lies in lack of proper regulatory measures, or rather enforcement of the measures. Now let us consider Bournvita or maybe any other similar brand of so-called health drinks, which represent that consumption of that particular health drink is going to make the child energetic, going to help his growth, going to make him maybe put him ahead in his class in sports and physical activities. That sort of representation in the advertisements is what is of great concern. Now we must remember the total contents of sugar, as mentioned on the package itself, shows that nearly 50% of the content per 100 grams is sugar. It is 49.8 or something like that. Another thing to be remembered is that these health drinks are not consumed in isolation. It does not form the only diet that a child takes. So along with that, you have your meals, you have your lunch, you have your dinner, you have various carbohydrates, you have rice, you have various things. You may have biscuits, you may have sweets. So the total intake of sugar is far higher than what is supposed to be consumed during the day, what is called the recommended daily quota of sugar, RDI.
So the regulation,
So
sir, Mr. Gai, as far as
yes,
regulation and the execution.
I'm coming to that.
Yes.
I'm coming to that.
So, yeah,
So
exactly.
now, because of this, the World Health Organization, in fact, has recommended that there should be certain restrictions on marketing of such products. Now, even after it was flagged by WHO, what action has been taken? There's nothing. So till something like this happens and the controversy arises, it is the failure of the regulator to really scrutinize and consider the totalitarian effect of a particular thing being marketed, which by itself may not be harmful, but in conjunction with other food products would definitely be harmful to a child.
But
So
at
I
the
think
moment,
the regulator has to consider that, and it has miserably failed
correct,
to do so.
But at the moment, the regulator is not in the dock. So it seems, even in matters of perception, Sunil Alagh, it's not the regulator that's in the dock, it is the company. It happened after a social media influencer posted this video claiming that the drink contains this high sugar content. Though he deleted that post after a legal notice was served by Mondelez India, that video had already been viewed around 12 million times. A lot of influencers have a lot to say, but the truth is not verified. But there are inherent risks with that. And as far as the product is concerned, we find that the company is being asked to become a personal doctor. Is that even possible? Isn't it the job of the regulator where the questions aren't quite being raised? Wouldn't you agree, Sunil Alagh?
No, I don't think the regulator can turn around and say that once a product which is by itself not harmful, for the regulator to estimate what the child is going to have throughout the day is rather difficult. It's almost idealistic as far as we are concerned. Look, it's important for all companies to say this is the amount of sugar that we are putting in. However, they could state that the child should not have more than X amount of sugar throughout the day. And now it's up to the parents and everything else. But a regulator to turn around and say that, look, a child must have so much per product, per this thing, per spoon, per this, it's impossible for companies because Mondelez is marketing something which it, according to them, is factually correct. And therefore, they are saying that. But look, what has Diet Coke? Please examine a Diet Coke. That's an example of saying that below 12 years of age, no child should be given Diet Coke because of aspartame, because of sugar content, because of everything else. Now, what they could have said is that not just a question of Mondelez waking up today. The important thing is for all companies to respond within 24 hours of anything that I'm not talking about somebody who has only 500 views or 10,000 views. This guy has got 1 million views. Now, if you respond after 15 days or after 30 days, then by that time it's too late, because exactly what happened in the case of Maggi was they took their own sweet time. Standard operating procedures should be for everybody in Bournvita to have come out and said earlier that 20 grams of sugar, and this is it, that this is what they are stating. Now, it's very important for them to put on the pack so much of sugar is given per take, per 1.5 spoons of. Now, if the guy has 1 tablespoon in a glass of milk, well, so much for him. Therefore, he knows how much of sugar has gone in. But I am just turning it around and saying that, look, advertising plays another role altogether. And therefore, a lot of standards of advertising have come in, because if we don't observe the standards of advertising on our own, the government is bound to step in. And then you'll complain that the government has come into an area which they don't know anything about. And that is why the Advertising Association of India has become far more strict when consumers complain about an ad. And, you know, like Bournvita shows, I think, a kid running massively if he has only Bournvita. And therefore, that's not the case. But for a government to step in, regulations, I think they've got enough of regulations. It's a question for large companies like us, like Britannia, like Mondelez, like Nestle, to come across and state very clearly, because small companies might follow, but the big companies are the ones that should come out and state. It's very well to say Indian consumers are not educated, they don't look at the back of the pack, but somebody has to start somewhere. And that's what's important for us, to start somewhere and put on the back of the pack like Diet Coke does.
Mr. Gai, does this convince you what Sunil Alagh is saying, that the buck needs to stop with the company itself, because it's not the regulator, it's not really the advertisement, because the laws are in place, but it is up to the company to state certain facts. It should be made mandatory at least to do that, and these laws are in place. So, in your opinion, where should the buck stop? Because at this point in time, it's still, the jury's still out on this one. How are we going to see an end to this problem? Because there are several companies, there are several products out there. All of them are up for scrutiny, as they should be.
I see it at a different perspective. The company does mention the recommended daily intake. The company does mention the total quantity. The question is, how many people are capable and how many people understand the significance of what is written on the back of the pack? The greater impact is because of the advertising. And I think it is advertising and the representation that it is supposed to be a health drink. That is where the regulator requires to step in, not regarding the sugar content. It is your choice. You know there is so much sugar, you have it or you leave it. You can have jalebi, you can have sweets, you can have whatever you like. The regulator cannot control that. But to represent something which could be hazardous as a health drink is what I find objectionable. And I think it is here that the regulator has failed to take action against such advertisements.
You continue to maintain that as far as regulators are concerned, they need to be at the forefront at a very basic level. Sunil Alagh seems to believe that it's the companies that need to kind of come out and make certain facts very clear on the products, on the labeling itself. We are not seeing an immediate end to this row, and we'll continue to track developments on this, and we'll invite Mondelez India also to participate in discussions like this as we go ahead. And indeed, we wait for the regulator to step in and say how they view this particular row, and as more companies and products come under scrutiny, how they're going to deal with them. That is something we're watching closely, but thank you indeed for joining us. Sunil Alagh and Jahangir Gai, it's a pleasure having you on the show.